In this video, we'll be discussing important information on Martin lighting service and maintenance. Before servicing any Martin product, always read our latest version of the product user documentation and any safety information provided with the product. Always observe all warnings printed on products and in user documentation. Always verify that your fixture came with the latest manual. An updated version is downloadable at the Martin website. When installing a product, it must be done 100% safely and correctly. If not, it should be removed until a knowledgeable and qualified technician can install it properly. Some service procedures require the removal of covers while the fixture is powered on and the lamp is on. These procedures can be dangerous and must only be performed by qualified technicians who are aware of and can protect themselves from hazards involved in working with live circuits and discharge lamps. ESD stands for electrostatic discharge. The sudden flow of static electricity can damage electronics, spark explosions or fires in flammable environments, and can cause data failures. When servicing PCBs or electronic equipment that has ESD-sensitive components, always wear ESD protective attire such as anti-static wrist straps, grounding smocks, or ESD safety shoes. These should be worn to protect your product from ESD damage. If your workbench does not have an ESD top, you need to lay an ESD mat on top of the table or workbench to properly ground it. Remove any tools that would produce static from your work area and only use anti-static tools and equipment. Touch a metal part of a fixture with your skin and with the tools to equalize electrical potentials prior to working on electronic components. Use anti-static bags for packaging ESD-sensitive components and PCBs for transport or storage. Power off a fixture and allow capacitors to discharge prior to removing or inserting any components on the PCBs. One of the major hazards when working with electronic equipment is electric shock. To avoid this, always read safety procedures provided with the product you are about to service. If servicing a fixture while it is under power or working with high voltage is necessary, be sure to use special safety rubber gloves and shoes. Make sure the fixture is electrically grounded, and keep electronic equipment away from water and all other liquids. Recheck all wires for bad connections or sign of wear, defects, and fraying. Never touch any connector or conductive component with your body or conductive object. Ultraviolet radiation can be damaging to both eyes and skin. To protect yourself from harm, always wear safety glasses and gloves when handling lamps, as discharge lamps emit harmful ultraviolet light that can cause eye and skin burns. Because the discharge lamps work under high temperatures and pressures, they can explode with increasing risk as the lamp ages. Always follow procedures and regulations when using and disposing lamps to prevent risk to health or the environment. Exposure to mercury can occur if the glass bulb is cracked or broken. The very small quantity released would not pose an acute risk to health if this did happen. However, a broken lamp must be cleaned up as described in the product user documentation. To prevent damage to any components while servicing, safe handling precautions should be taken. Damage to motor drives can occur to Martin Mach 3, Mach Viper, and early fixtures if they are not powered off prior to connecting or disconnecting the step motors. Because the Mach Viper and the Mach Quantum PCBs keep a high voltage charge after disconnecting the fixture from power, you should review the service documentation for the product and use the supplied discharge resistor inside the product on the PSU and ballast before removing PCBs. Many Martin light fixtures are heavy and difficult to lift. In some situations, 2 people may be necessary to lift certain fixtures. There are fixtures with moving heads that are top-heavy, which can move while carrying them, so be sure to apply tilt and pan locks whenever available. Always know your limits. Request the assistance of a second person when necessary, and always practice safe lifting and carrying techniques prior to lifting any product. Some general guidelines should be taken to ensure fixtures are always in good physical condition and operating properly. It is good practice to check the software version of a product before servicing, since an identical product with a different software version could have different characteristics. Visually check the product's physical appearance for misuse and listen for noises, as rough handling can cause parts to loosen or break that can be heard when the product is moved. Always review the maintenance schedule for any pending service procedures, which might include resetting lamp hours and other counters. Inspect wires and connectors visually for cuts, bends, corrosion, and continuity. They should be in perfect condition, and those that are not should be replaced. When cleaning PCBs, many of the guidelines in the previous slide that covered ESD should be adhered to. Additionally, use dust and oil-free compressed air and anti-static brushes to remove excess dust and smoke residue. Try to avoid causing any damage to components or PCB surface, and do a visual inspection for any discoloration or bent pins while cleaning. As mentioned in the previous slide on general guidelines, inspect wires and connectors visually for cuts, bends, corrosion, and continuity. They should be in perfect condition, and those that are not must be replaced. Also check the wires at the rotation points of the moving head, yoke, and base from both sides of the gate. Ensure there is no stress placed on the wires here. Feel the wires for firmness as opposed to feeling more elastic, because it could signify the copper inside the jacket is broken. Optics of the fixture should be cleaned occasionally so the fixture always provides good output. The optical components have fragile coatings and are exposed to very high temperatures, so always handle and store with care. When handling glass parts, wear clean disposable nitrile gloves and apply cleaning agents to the microfiber or lint-free cloth, never directly to the optical components. Per the product's manual and other documentation, glass parts should be removed. If possible, clean on both sides and reinstall in the reverse order that they were removed. The cleaning of micro-Fresnel lenses and heavy matted gobos have special precautions that should be reviewed and adhered to per the specifications. Optical parts can require different cleaning methods based on their physical shape, and some of those procedures are as follows. When cleaning circular shapes, wipe with a slow and gentle spiral motion from the center to the edge. Dry with a clean, soft, lint-free cloth, or use low-pressure compressed air. To remove debris or stuck particles, use unscented tissue or a cotton swab moistened with glass cleaner or distilled water. To avoid scratching the surface, do not rub the surface. Instead, lift the particles off with a soft, repeated press. Follow the same procedures as the circular shapes, except when wiping, it should be done in straight lines for cleaning other shapes, like CMYC flags and dichroic filters. For micro-Fresnel and plastic lenses, don't use alcohol or abrasive products to clean. Distilled water with 20% isopropyl alcohol applied to a lint-free cloth is an effective solution. Special care should always be taken when cleaning and storing gobos. They should be stored in a dust-free environment with about 50% humidity. As with many other lens components, handle gobos with clean nitrile gloves and clean with dust and oil-free compressed air on the coating side to avoid scratching. The glass side should be cleaned with lens cleaner and recommended tissues to avoid scratching. As shown in the illustration to the right, when installing, the more reflective side faces toward the lamp and the less reflective side faces away from the lamp. To reduce the difficulty in determining which side is more reflective and which side is less reflective, use a pencil to show that against the more reflective side, the tip does not meet with the reflected images tip, where the lead tip of the pencil does meet the reflected images tip on the less reflective side. LEDs can be dry cleaned with compressed air from a spray can or purified air from a central supply. Otherwise, additional contaminants like oil are sprayed onto the board and components. The use of a clean, soft, lint-free, and dry cloth or clean brush will be sufficient for cleaning LEDs also. LED devices encapsulated with silicone should not be dry cleaned with compressed air due to the soft silicone making them more sensitive to pressure, where the dust is more susceptible to adhering to the sticky silicone. Wet cleaning of LEDs is certainly not necessary, and a dry cloth or compressed air is sufficient. However, if LEDs are extremely dirty, with contaminants sticking more strongly, generally isopropyl alcohol can be used for cleaning it, since it has been approved by the LED manufacturer Osram. Fans are exposed to high levels of dust and smoke, so it is very important to keep them clean. To clean fans, use a vacuum or dust and oil-free compressed air, but care must be taken to prevent the fan blades from spinning because this can cause the motor to burn out or even send reverse voltage, amongst other problems. A worn drive belt can display skipping in the effects, which can also make for an undesirable presentation. A visual inspection should be performed on the belt for worn or missing teeth, or the more obvious fraying and cracks. You can look for wear by rotating an effect wheel by hand and replace when necessary. Certain parts must be lubricated to specifications in order for those parts to maintain proper smooth operation. Kluber grease is a high-temperature lubricant that Martin has supplied as a part number, so the technician can source this on their own, that is used on axles, iris gears, and other surfaces that require lubricant. As shown in the top image, a very small amount of lubricant is used to lubricate the rail. Any more lubricant than that, as shown in the bottom image, is excessive and could cause a sticky surface, preventing the blades from moving across the rails smoothly. Mechanical dimmers can be visually inspected thoroughly for burn marks on both sides. Ensure they are flat with no bends in them caused by excessive heat. By hand, move the blades through their range to confirm that they have free movement and you are not feeling any restriction. When viewing the blades on the edge, make sure they are straight. Loctite 243 is important in applying to certain set screws and others that have the potential of loosening that could be avoided. Most of the screws in the Martin smoke machine do not require Loctite, as well as sheet metal or self-tapping screws. A general rule is that any two components that are held together by screws and have a potential to drop from a certain height should have Loctite applied. For example, a yoke that is secured to a base by screws would benefit from having Loctite applied. It is very important to avoid getting Loctite on shafts, axles, or anything that requires freedom of movement. Set screws should be tightened enough until some resistance is felt. There is no need to over-tighten, and doing so makes them extremely difficult to remove. Typically, once they are in, they don't move, but backing the screw 2 turns and applying a drop of Loctite, then retightening should secure them in place. Tap-tight self-tapping screws are not like regular screws and should not be reused if removed. Each time a tap-tight screw is reinstalled, its strength and tightness is reduced, so it is best then to use a metric fastener of the same size for reinstalling parts or new tap-tight screws when installing new parts. If a thread in a motor is stripped, it is best to use a smaller screw that is long enough to feed all the way through the hole and can be fastened with a self-locking nut. Incorporate a regular cleaning routine after service, such as visually inspecting screws for tightness, making sure the surfaces of the fixtures are clean and dust-free with the use of a good, natural foam cleaner and soft, lint-free cloths. Always listen for abnormal sounds in fixtures and watch for any abnormal operation. This concludes this service training. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.